Torah. We are in Brachos, Daf Lamed Gimel, Amud Aleph. We are in the medium-sized line. We're going to back up one line from the bottom, the medium-sized line. So the gemorah said, "Va'omer Reb Elazar, Kol Adam sheyesh b'deya kilu nivne beis hamikdash b'yamav." Any individual that has deya, intellect, wisdom, it's like the Beis Hamikdash was built in his time. Deya nit ben shteyesius, Mikdash nit ben shteyesius. So we saw this yesterday. Just like the Beis Hamikdash is given between two letters, and Deya is given between two letters. Chodesh. So says the gemorah, Maskif lo Rav Acha or Rafka Achs Ravacha Karchinoi. And if that's true, that any time it says a word between two yeshivs of Hashem, between two names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's a great thing. If that's true, so vengeance, nekama, is also great. What it says, Elamata Gedayla nekama. So you're going to tell me that vengeance is great? Shenot be'shteyesius shenem. It says in the verse, Kel nekama is Hashem. Kel is the name of Hashem. Nekama is vengeance is Hashem. God is a God of vengeance. So what's the question here exactly? I discussed what the question is. L'chaira, the question is that we said that there's a couple of ways of understanding it. Either that Deya and the Beis Hamikdash, wisdom and the Beis Hamikdash are so great, you need a tremendous chus to be zeicha, to have das. You need a merit to be zeicha the Beis Hamikdash. Not everyone gets to live in time of the Beis Hamikdash. Not everyone's merits to have wisdom. So you need to have a tremendous merit to be zeicha to that. What merit do you need to have vengeance? Vengeance is like, you don't need that. That's how some people understand the question. No, you don't need a merit for vengeance. Vengeance is the opposite of merit, right? God's vengeance is when a person sins, he doesn't have merit. That's the first way of understanding the question. The other mahalach is that the das, kel deis Hashem, das is the thing that is the thing that's able to take the 2 minutes of Hashem, din and rachamim, compassion and justice, and fuse it together. Understand why there's sometimes chesed, why there's sometimes rachamim, or some say to be able to change the midas adin to the midas rachamim. Someone's got das, he's able to turn Hashem's justice into charity, right? That's how they understand it. So in that case, that doesn't apply to nekama, to vengeance. How vengeance doesn't come from rachmanis. Vengeance comes from just pure justice. There's no intermingling of compassion together with nekama, vengeance, right? So what does it mean? Kel nekama Hashem. Is nekama such a great thing? The Gemara answers, Amalei, he said back to him, yep. B'milsa mia gedaylehi, and its thing is great. Vengeance is a beautiful, great thing, not to be taken lightly. The Gemara is going to say, explain. V'hainu dam ula. This is what Ula meant when he said, Shtei nekamais halalu lama achas atayv v'achas hara. There's two vengeances, or there's a two-sided coin. Achas l'tayva v'achas hara. There's vengeance for good and vengeance for bad. Meaning what? It says, he revealed himself ma'aparon. So it says twice here. So there's vengeance for good, vengeance for bad. And what the Achronim explain is like this. Good morning, Joe. Well, the Achronim explain is like this. Vengeance is really bad for the guy that gets the vengeance, right? But for the other people who are benefiting from the vengeance, it's a great thing. So you're right, when Hashem takes vengeance on the Rishonim, for them it's nekama, it's justice. But for the rest of mankind, it's music to our ears. If you listen really carefully, you hear all the Rishonim of the world. Right now, as we sit here, learning the Eibish's Torah, we know there's music being played, Hitler, burning in hell, all these Rishonim, Ahmadinejad, and all these people, I don't know who, Sinwar, they're all burning, they're roasting, and they're screaming in pain. It's music to our ears. If you listen carefully, you can hear it, you know it's happening. It's just it's a pleasure. It's enjoyment. We're supposed to enjoy that. We're supposed to take nechama, to take consolence. There's nothing more consoling than to know that vengeance is happening. We're not like these people that believe, turn the other cheek, forgive and forget. When someone's an evil, despicable Russia who's ruined millions of lives or thousands of even one life, it's music to our ears to know that he's getting justice. Justice is being dished out for eternity. These people are burning in hell forever and ever. That's a tremendous nechama. So you're right, it's for them, it's justice. But for us, it's compassion. So that's why it's great. It's great. How could you live your life thinking that these guys got away with it? You think these people are getting away with it? That's a way to live your life. How could you live your life like that? That there's no justice, there's no vengeance. Kel Nekamas Hashem, God is a God of vengeance. We can be guaranteed, just like there's a base of Mikdash, there was a base of Mikdash, there will be a base of Mikdash. The Novi that talks about when Mashiach comes and Mechemes Gog is Yom Nakam. A day of vengeance is coming. All the goyim that made us suffer for all the years, there's going to be a day of vengeance, and they will get what's coming. Whoever made us suffer. So says the Gemara. Where are we? We're in the very third wide line on Lamed Gimel Lamed Aleph. Sorry, the fourth wide line. Rabbi Kiva Aimer B'Bracha Revius. When do we say Havdalah? You say Havdalah in the fourth bracha. That's how Rabbi Kiva said. You make a new bracha called Havdalah. That's when you say Havdalah, right? So Gemara says, Amalei Rav Shimon ben Abba Rav Yechanan Michti Anshe Knesset Gdoila Tikla Mishal Bracha is Tfilas Kedushas V'Havdalas. The Anshe Knesset Gdoila, the original takon, they set that and they made all the original takonas. So they wait for takonas to say all the brachas, the tfilas, kedusha, all the kedushas, the kiddush and Havdalah. So the Gemara says, let's see, where did they make the takana? Did they say you should add another bracha or not? How are they masakin? Like, in other words, you have a machlekes in the Mishnah. When do you say Havdalah? The last bracha, the first bracha, in Atachainen. Let's see. And Taishis explains, when do you say, let's see what the takana was? If it's something that you do every week, it's not like something, you put tefillin in a box and you don't know how with the order because it's locked up and you don't know, I don't know. It's not something you do every 6 years, every 10 years, every year you read the Megillah and you could get confused. It's something you're doing every week. You're saying Havdalah. When do you say Havdalah? What's the machlekes about? That's what he's asking. You say Havdalah. We've been doing it for 1,000 years. When do you say it? What's the machlekes? Because the Gemara doesn't always say Nech Zayanan. The Gemara doesn't always say Nech Zayanan. So why here does the Gemara say Nech Zayanan? So the Gemara explains that. So Taisa explains that if it's something you're doing every week, so Nech Zayanan also. Let's see. Go look. What's going on over there? Okay. So the Gemara says Nech Zayanan. Let's see. So, but just interesting, but on a side note, it says that they were masakin Kiddush and Havdalah. We know Kiddush is deoraisa, it's biblical. So what does it mean they were masakin Kiddush? So some say it means they were masakin. Kiddush could mean you could say you have a good Shabbos, and you're makayim the mitzvah deoraisa that's to just remember at Shabbos, good Shabbos, right? Have a good Shabbos. You're makayim the deoraisa. And they were masakin to say the words. Excuse me? Rabbanit, it makes a lot of noise. So either they were masakin to say the words V'chol Shemayim, or they were masakin to say ala kais. It's a machlekes. What was what the kana? Is it the rice to say ala kais, but they were only masakin the words? It's a bit of a machlekes. Excuse me? Could you not do the chairs now? It really disturbs on the microphone. It comes out like 10 times the volume. Sorry. No problem. Amalei. So he said to him, B'tchila kavu b'tfila. This is what happened. Originally, the Anshe Knesset Gdoila, they were masaken. They instituted to say Havdalah in Shemoneh Esrei, in Atachainen. or sometime in tefillah. We didn't know. This is why it's confusing. Originally the takana was, you say Havdalah and Shemona Esra in tefillah. Then what happened? They became rich, meaning they were able to buy wine. They had enough money to buy wine now. So, Kavalakais, they said, you know what, now we've got money, instead of saying it in prayer, take a cup of wine, and be Makadesh, and say Havdalah. Henu, then they got poor again, Chazu v'kava b'tefillah, and then they reinstituted it later in tefillah. And that's why it was confusing. They didn't know when was the takana. Now they want to reinstitute it. Wait, years ago when they were poor, they said in tefillah. When in tefillah did they do it? The first bracha, the second bracha, the last bracha, they already lost track, because for years they're doing it on a cup. When they said, they also said, they were misaken, they also said, besides for the fact that you should redo it in tefillah, if you did Havdalah in Shemona Esra, you also have to do it on a cup of wine. Okay, that's what the Bryce says. The original assembly, Tiknu Lahem Yisrael, Brachas Tefillah Kedushes Havdalais. Betchila Kavah Betfillah, originally they instituted in Tefillah. Heshiru Kavah Lakais, they got rich, they made it on a cup. Chazu Vehenu Kavah Betfillah. Then they got poor again, they did it again in Shemona Esra. Vehimam Raval Betfillah Tzach Shav de Lakais. So you have a Bryce that says the same thing. Itben Amir Rabba Rav Yosef. The Amir Tavayu, Rabba Rav Yosef both say, Amavda Betfillah, Tzach Shav de Lakais. If you said Havdalah in Shemona Esra, you still have to do Havdalah Lakais. And the question is you're saying a bracha in Havdalah. You say 3 brachas. Neh, Psalmim, Yayin, right? But you already did Havdalah in Shemona Esra. Isn't it bracha levatala? How can you do Havdalah Lakais now? You already were Havdalah in Shemona Esra. So why are you doing Havdalah again? So they said, it's a chiddush. Tzach she'avdalah Lakais. You still have to do Havdalah Lakais, even though you already done Havdalah. It's no longer Shabbos for you. You took out Shabbos. You said Havdalah. So Amar Rava Mesvin Lashmaisin. Rava says, "Tav Eloi his gegvus k'shavim b'tchias hamesim." If a guy makes a mistake and he doesn't say in tchias hamesim Mashu v'racham ha'edegeshem, he didn't say it. V'sheila b'brichas shanim, and you didn't say sheila b'brichas shanim. You didn't ask for rain in the brach of rain. V'avdalah b'chayin anadas. You didn't say Havdalah in Chayin Nadas.
Wait,
Machzir Noisei. You make him go back, sorry. If you didn't say Gvus Kshamim M'Shem T'chas Mesim Machzir Noisei, you have to say it again. If you forgot to say Geshem, you got to say it again. You go back. V'avdalah b'Chayin Nadas. If you didn't say Havdalah in Chayin Nadas, Ein Machzir Noisei, you don't have to say Shemona Esra again. You forget to say Havdalah in Chayin Nadas, you don't have to nothing again. Why not? Since you could go ahead and say it, alakais. Since you could do Havdalah alakais afterwards, you don't have to say it. The implication is that you don't say alakais, but if you forgot, then you could say alakais. Since you could say it, alakais. So Gemara answers, don't read this that says that you could say alakais, alakais. Since you are saying alakais anyway, you're anyway going to say alakais. Therefore, you don't have to repeat your Shemona Esra if you forgot it in Shemona Esra.
Just a funny question. Once they got poor again, wouldn't it make more sense to then say you don't have to say it on the coast? Like, in other words, they got rich, so they instituted the coast. Then they got poor again, so wouldn't they have? Well, why didn't they just take that back?
Why didn't they get rid of the coast?
I mean, in other words, you didn't. So now they just like piled on the misery, and not only say it here, but you got to say you still, even though you're poor, you got to say it.
So great question. What Chaim explained is that what happened over here. They realized that there's something's going to be poor, there's something's going to be rich. We don't want to say make it a la kais, and then if people are poor, they're going to have to suffer and go buy a kais. We don't want to say you only do it in tefillah because people might have money for thousands of years and they're not going to do a la kais. It's better to do a la kais. So therefore, they said do both. As soon as they say, look, they're going to be, there's a cycle, they're going to be rich, they're going to be poor, do both. Just do both. And if your guy can't afford a kais, if he's an ani, so he'll do it in tefillah, he's yaitza. I'm not sure why they didn't realize originally that people are going to be rich and people are going to be poor, but That's the mashmais. They thought that's it. These are the good times. Yemais Mashiach, Beis Hamikdash is here. People are going to be rich forever, right? They all had panos in the time of Beis Hamikdash, I guess. So the Gemara says, yeah, so Itmanami, Rabba, Rav Yosef, Rabba, and Rav Yosef both said, Domri Tavayu, Amavdi Batfila, Tzarach Shavdil Alakais. I skipped the line there?
Yeah, Itmanami.
Itmanami.
Rabbi Binyamin, Amar Rabbi Binyamin Bar Yafis.
Oh, so Itmanami, Amar Rav Binyamin Bar Yafis, Shal Rav Yosef Rav Yechanan. Rav Yosef Rav Yechanan, B'Tzidon, in a place called Tzidon. V'amri ve'amar Rav Shimon Bar Yaakov de Mitzor es Rav Yechanan. Some say Rav Shimon Bar Yaakov as Rav Yechanan. He said, V'ana Shamis, Hamav de B'Tfilah Tzach Shavdil Alakais, Olai. Did you hear the Hamav de B'Tfilah Tzach Shavdil Alakais, Olai? If someone makes $1 in Shmoneh Esrei, does he need to do it Alakais or not? V'amri he said back to him, Tzach Shavdil Alakais. Yeah, you need to use a kais. So it's conclusive. Ibailu Hamadal Kais Mashav the Betfila. The Gemara asks again. Hamadal Kais Mashav the Betfila. You know you're using a kais. Should I say it in Tefillah? Should I do Avdal in Tefillah? I know I'm about to make Avdal al kais. Amar of Nachum Yitzchak Kal v'Chayma. He says, you know what? It's a Kal v'Chayma. The what? Kal v'Chayma Tefillah. Umat Tefillah Dika Takanti. The Ikka Takana was to say it in Tefillah, right? That was Ikka Tefillah. That was the first Takana. Say it in Tefillah. Amri Amad the B'Tefillah Shach Shav L'Kais. And they said, even if you said it in Tefillah, you did the Ikka Takana, you should still do it on a kais. Amad the Kais, the Lavik Takana. So if you're going to do it on a kais, which is not the main Takana, like Oshkein, all the more so that you should say the Tefillah. If when you did, in other words, if when you did the Ikka, you have to do the Tafel, Kolshkein, when you do the Tafel, you have to do the Ikka. If when you do the main takana of tefillah, you have to do the minor takana, all the more so when you do the minor takana, you have to do the major takana. Okay. Tanya Ravacha said, Tanya Ravacha Aricha Kameida Rav Chinina. Hamavdil b'tefillah meshubach yetz mishyavdil alakais. It's better to do Havdalah in tefillah than to do Havdalah on a kais. So which one's better? The tefillah. Why is Havdalah b'tefillah better than a kais? You might think a kais is more chashuv. You have a cup. It's beautiful. It's more of a tekes, right? It's more of a function. I don't know what the word is. It's more elegant than tefillah. But the idea is that since it's to do with the Chaim saying, since Havdalah is das and you say it in the brach of das, and it's an intellectual activity, you can do it in tefillah. It's better than doing ala kais. The intellectual activity of being mavdil in tefillah, that's better than being mavdil ala kais. If you did Havdalah both tefillah and ala kais, yanuchu loy brachas al roishai. He should have brachas fall on his head. Why? Why should you have brachas on your head if you did Havdalah in both? What's the idea? The idea is because Shabbos is the makar bracha, the Achronim say. All bracha comes to us from Shabbos. From this connection we have to God through His holy day, Shabbos. So by being mavdil, any type of Havdalah, to differentiate between Shabbos and the rest of the week, the more you differentiate, the more you're elevating Shabbos. The more you say like, wow, now it's already a weekday, it's no longer Shabbos. That creates that elevates Shabbos. So you get more brachas. You get the bracha of, which bracha? The bracha of Shabbos. So you see the importance of Havdalah. Buy yourself a nice Havdalah candle, right? Yinuchel brachas roishai. Agufa kasha. The Gemara asks, kasha. You just said that being mavdil in tefillah takes precedence of being mavdil ala kais. It's more important. Alma, you see, tefillah l'chuda, sagi. That would imply the doing Havdalah just in tefillah is enough, right? Then you said, if you do both, then you're a tzaddik. You'll get these brachas. The given the nafik lebechada if you're going to tell me that you could do Havdalah in Tefillah and you're Yetzer with that, so why should you do Havdalah Kais? You're Yetzer already. You just told me you could do Havdalah and Tefillah and you're Yetzer. So now I don't need to make these brachas in Havdalah. Those are brachas she'en tzricha. It's an unnecessary bracha. And then what's a problem? And you also told me that if you do both, you're going to get shefa come down from Shemayim. So which is it? Is it bracha she'en tzricha, or are you getting extra bracha from it? Bracha from Min Shemayim. It's a bracha she'en tzricha l'chayra. So what's on with the bracha she'en tzricha? V'amar Rav yitem Reish Lakish v'amar Rav Yechanan v'amar Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish Dami Tavai. They both said kol mevarach bracha she'en tzricha oiva mishum leisisa. If you make a bracha she'en tzricha, you violated the law in the Torah of Lo Sisa. Meaning what? What's a bracha she'en tzricha? You don't need to make a bracha. You just said a shakal on a piece of chicken. And now you see a piece of meat. You say another shakal. It's a bracha she'en tzricha. You don't need to make the bracha. So the Gemara says, Reb Chaim and Reish Lakish, they both said, Ya'eva Lo Sisa. Now, is it Daraisa Darabanan? The Ritva says, this means Darabon Leisisa. It doesn't mean Daraisa Eva Leisisa. Leisisa is only for Leisisa Shem Hashav. If you take God's name in vain, one of the 10 commandments, you violate that if you say, I swear in the name of God that, the guy says the apple's an orange. So he took God's name in vain. That's one of the 10 commandments. But this is a rabbinical Leisisa. You said Hashem's name. You didn't swear, but you said Baruch Atah God, Hashem. You said Baruch Atah Hashem. You said the name of Hashem. So you take Hashem's name, you don't need to. The Ritva says, but it's Darabanan. Because you're still praising Hashem. You're saying, thank you Hashem, you made apples. He made apples. You thank Hashem for making apples. It's great. But guess what? It's a bracha you don't need. So they said, but Darabanan you shouldn't do it. It's a bracha she'en tzricha. You Darabanan over this. Is it Rabbanan? The Magen Avram halacha says la halacha. He says the mashmois from the Rambam is a ya'iva biblical. It's biblical. Ya'iva leisisa. And saying a bracha that you don't need is a serious avera. You should be very careful not to say bracha she'en tzrichas. You can't say brachas if you don't need to. So, what does Gemara say? Ella eimahachi im hivdil bezu v'la hivdil bezu. So what does it really mean? If you did Havdalah in one and not the other, then you get the brachas al-Reishai. But just by making Havdalah, you get a bracha al-Reishai for doing any type of Havdalah. So, just b'mayma mozga, what happens if a guy, the Achronim guy didn't say Havdalah in Ma'ariv? He didn't have a Ma'ariv, Motzei Shabbos, comes Motzei Shabbos, he's too tired, he sleeps through, the big Shalosh happens to be sometime, you sleep all the way, you skip Ma'ariv, right? You wake up Sunday morning, oh boy, I didn't do Havdalah, right? So now he's got to daven Ma'ariv twice. Should he say Yata Chanantanu Havdalah in Shachris? Twice? Yeah. Now be Mavdal in Shachris. He hasn't done Havdalah yet. He wasn't Mavdal in Ma'ariv. Even if he did Havdalah ala Kais, but you can still, he's davening Ma'ariv now. Now, you know that the first thing you pray is Shachris. And the second prayer is Tashlumin, because you missed, is Ma'ariv. That's the evening prayer. When do you say Havdalah? In the Tashlumin, in the Ma'ariv, or in the Shachris? What was the takana? Was the takana to say Atachanantanu in Ma'ariv, in which case you should say in the second prayer, or was it takana to say Atachanantanu in the first thing you pray? And now the first thing you pray is Shachris.
It says tefillah. The lashon of the gemorah was tefillah. It doesn't say.
So you're saying you should say it in Shachris. Yeah, the first thing you pray, you should say Atachanantanu. It's machlekes a place here. Do you say Atachanantanu in Shachris or in the Ma'ariv? I think the Mishnah Berurah says that you should say it in the Ma'ariv part. Okay. So, it's machlekes. It never happens to you, I'm sure, so there's nothing to worry about. Okay, it says in Gemara, "By minei Rav Chisda," we'll get to the $2. By minei Rav Chisda, Rav Sheshes. Tal bezu mao. You didn't do Ma'ariv, you didn't do Avdallah. You blew both of them. What should you do? Mao. So, the Gemara says, "Amalei tal bezu chayzel areish." You know what you should do? Daven Ma'ariv again. So what are we talking about? Why can't you do Avdallah? He did it. The Achronim explained. He did Avdallah. He ate before Avdallah. He came home, he had a burger, and then I didn't do Avdallah. So he does Avdallah. It's too late. You can't eat before Avdallah. So now you didn't do Avdallah, and you didn't have a Ma'ariv. You forgot to have a Ma'ariv. What should you do? Again, he ate before Avdallah, so the Avdallah wasn't Yetzer. So should he do Ma'ariv or should he do Avdallah? So one says, Chayzel Aroish, daven Ma'ariv again. Rashi says, Chayzel Aroish, the Tfilah Vilakais. Last Rashi on the page. Daven again, and do Ma'ariv and do Avdallah Alakais again. Gemara says, Amalei Ravina Rava. Hilchas Amai, what's halacha Amalei? He said to him, Ki Kiddush. It's the same thing as Kiddush in the morning, when on Shabbos. Ma Kiddush Avagav de B'Kaddish B'Tzleisa. Just like on Shabbos, in the Tefillah, you sanctify the Shabbos. You say, today Shabbos, Shabbos Akadshai, V'chol Hashem Haaretz. Avdallah Nami, also Avdallah, Avagav the Mavdil B'Tzaisa, Mavdil Akas. Also Avdallah, even though you did Avdallah in Shemona Esra, you do Avdallah al Akais. That's the end of the sugya over here. So that's how we're noyeg, that's halacha. You do Avdallah in davening and also in alakais. And the din, I guess, of Yechulu Brachas Areisha is Chal. Either way, whether you did it in this one or the other one, we do it on both. Do we have time to keep going? I think we're going to have to end today early because it's Rosh Chodesh, and we'll get very busy here. So have a good Chodesh, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. As far as your question was, I do listen to Reb Singer. Yeah, that's true. You got me. Have a wonderful day. You all should.